Hello everyone and welcome to my review of the 2021 Toyota Sienna XSE, and I'll apologize right off the top. This video is not going to be up to my regular standard of things. It is terribly cold out there, terribly windy. I'm wrapped up as warm as I can, but the camera is not surviving the temperature. So I apologize ahead for that, and there's going to be a lot of manufacturer B-roll in this video so you can get a better look at this vehicle. But I'm going to be bold and give my statement of this vehicle right off of the top. There's many vehicles I get to test out and I like, and some of them I like so much that one day I want to buy, but very few of them really do blow me away. And this Toyota Sienna may be one of the best engineered products that I have ever come across in my time reviewing cars. Saying that, the new Sienna is obviously a segment leader in my ranking system, so don't wait to the end of the video to find out that verdict. But there's so many reasons as to why I love this thing. And I'm a single guy, I'm 25, I have no desire to have children. But being in this minivan really is enough for me to maybe think otherwise. So, let's start off with something that's perhaps the most controversial and probably the thing that people are going to like least about the new Sienna. And that's the exterior design. With the all-new platform, the TNGA that Toyota's used for the new Camry, RAV4, Highlander, Toyota had a brand new starting point for their 4th generation minivan. And the shape and size of this minivan is totally conventional, but the styling of it is very unconventional. To me, it did look very alien in the pictures. In person, it has a little bit more charm to it, and with the XSE, something like the grille is a little more extreme than what it is on the other trim levels. But I have to say, with the XSE, you get these 20-inch rims, and when have you ever seen a minivan, let alone with 20-inch rims, but 20-inch rims that look good? I'm going to grab my notebook for this, because here is a direct quote from the people from Toyota when it came to the press release of this new Sienna. So, Toyota claims that the goal was to optimize everything that is great about minivan function while wrapping it all into a bold, sexy, provocative design. There you go. Their words, not mine. Is it beautiful? No. Is it interesting? To me, yes. But really, I think you're going to have to judge it for yourself when you go and have a look at one of these in the dealership. Now, moving on to the interior, because the cabin space is so much more important in a minivan. That's why people buy them. And I know there's some kind of stigma towards minivans not being cool. Maybe that's why Toyota overcompensated with the exterior design. But after spending just a minute in this cabin, you realize that the form and function and the layout of a minivan is just so much more efficient if you really are prioritizing space and the amount of people that you put in a minivan. Starting up front, look at how this dashboard is built. It looks like it's floating totally separated from the segment below, where you have this big open shelf, and you've got a 9-inch screen as standard that's angled towards you slightly. Just below that, a lot of physical controls for your climate control. In this vehicle I'm driving, it has a 4-zone climate control system. Another standard feature is the tri-zone climate control, the heated front seats and the heated steering wheel, plus power sliding rear doors. That's something I wasn't expecting out of this, but there we go. So right in front of you with this open storage space, easy to just throw your mask, your phone, whatever it might be. You've got 4 cup holders, a little space right here where you could rest your phone. And I really like this detail of if you're plugging your phone into this USB charger for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, that you can have the wire underneath it still without bending it and potentially damaging it. All of this is part of what Toyota calls the bridge console, and you can see why, because look at all of this empty space just below. I've been in quite a few cars that have this brilliant design where you can throw a handbag or something like that, but this seems big enough to put a helmet of some kind. But none of that sacrifices the space in the center console, because it is deep enough that I could bury my arm in there, and you've got a USB-C and traditional USB plug-in there as well. Storage space in the door cards is okay, definitely not the best in class, but still enough that you could put a newspaper, tall water bottles, stuff like that. And with the XSE trim, you get the Softex faux leather with this very interesting color combination. So there's this slightly brownish gray with orange stitching, and then on the seats you've got that gray again, but with brown stitching, orange stitching, and this white Softex leather. And if you look at it, the texturing of it is kind of like crocodile leather. Very bold move. Outside of that, material use is fairly good, nothing less than what I was expecting. So there is some harder plastics up front and down below, but everywhere where you rest your arms, like these integrated armrests, all feels great, and there's padding up along this stitching so you can rest your knee and be quite comfortable. Moving on to the second row seats, depending on which trim level you go for, you're going to have 2 captain chairs or 3 seating. They have 25 inches of movement. So for the most extreme examples, if you need all the amount of space that you need in the back behind them, or as much legroom as possible, this Sienna really does offer the best of both worlds. But it is important to note that you cannot take these seats out. So if you want to use your minivan as a van, that might be a real problem for you. Second row comfort for me is fantastic, like with the sliding seats. I've got all the legroom I could possibly want. Headroom is pretty good too. You've got integrated armrests and a little storage pocket on the side where you could throw a water bottle perhaps. You can easily clip in your baby seat there if you need to, and to slide them forwards and backwards, fold them, collapse them, whatever it is, it's all a very simple tug. Even a kid could do it. For the third row seats, I'm surprised to say that even someone like me can sit upright back there. And of course, if I wanted to really sit back there and feel like I was in a limo, then slide the second row all the way forward, and I've got pretty good amounts of headroom too. There's cup holders, USB plugs, and if you wanted to fold that third row away like they are right now, it really is just one big pull with that huge grab handle. It's light enough that, again, even a child could do it, and they fold into that open cavity for your boot very easily. There's a little more extra storage to the side, and because I'm in the XSE tech package, we've got 2 household plugins there in the boot space, but another one in this cabin space that could be easily accessed by the second row passengers. Another few things added on to that technology package. It comes at $5,500 premium in Canada. You get the JBL 12 speaker sound system, wireless phone charging, a digital rear view mirror with integrated washer, parking sensors, and the 11.6-inch rear entertainment screen, which you can either plug in something with HDMI or stream with Bluetooth or the Miracast app. I mentioned earlier that sliding rear doors are standard with the Sienna, and this XSE will have the kick to open function on the doors and with the trunk lid as well. They've worked very consistently, and there's a nice little logo down on the floor sill so you know where to wave your foot about, and you can also use the power door operation if you want to just tug on the handle, press the button, and on the inside you've got those same options too. If you ever want to get rid of that power function, it's just simply pressing a button down here on the left hand side. So issues with the Sienna's cabin, I think the biggest sticking point is that you cannot remove those second row seats. That's going to be incredibly important for you if you're planning to use the Sienna as a moving van. But outside of that, it's little things like the scratchy plastics that you could come to expect. And yes, there is pretty poor rear visibility, but that's the same situation for all minivans, to be frank. So I hope I've done enough to convince you of just how good this product is on the inside. Now let me try to convince you how good it is on the road. So even though driving conditions in this exact moment are less than ideal, and I'm going to be driving a hell of a lot slower than what I usually would, I will say that this is not a sloppy driving experience. In fact, it's really quite well put together. Toyota claims that their XSE vehicles are the ones that have sport-tuned suspension, and whenever I've tested out Toyotas or Lexuses previously, their sport-tuned system, I could never really tell a difference if I'm being honest. But with this, ride is incredibly flat. There's actually a good amount of consistency to the steering wheel, really good on center feel, and it doesn't flop over when you need to take such a hard corner. The suspension calibration is absolutely fantastic. Comparing it to something like a compact premium sedan is pretty accurate, honestly. And the driving position is very high, so you can look down on that short bonnet. And because this Sienna is now hybrid only, you get all of the hybrid benefits that I've banged on about with countless other reviews when I've tested out sort of normal cars that are hybridized. The gospel that I preach when it comes to new cars is that if you're looking for something to just drive about downtown, just something that you regularly commuting, why wouldn't you want a hybrid? You've got all of the benefits of course, fuel efficiency, reliability, that whole section of a discussion. But for me, as a driving enthusiast, hybrids make regular day-to-day driving, where I'm stuck at 50 kilometers an hour right now, interesting, because I'm constantly monitoring when I am or when I'm not using the electric motor. I'm coasting earlier so I can go into EV mode, and of course the Sienna has that EV mode button where you can try and lock in its electric driving mode if you're going really slowly and being really careful with the throttle. It's something that you really only ever use if you're in the situation of stop and go gridlock traffic kind of a thing. With the Sienna, you've got the 2.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that makes 189 horsepower and 176 pound-feet of torque. With the combination of the 1.9 kilowatt nickel metal hydride battery and the 2 electric motors, you get a net horsepower of 243. Torque is a number that Toyota never really seems to provide. You can get this Sienna with all-wheel drive like you could before, but this is the E all-wheel drive system where a third electric motor is put on the rear axle, and it's mostly used to help get you off the line or if you're really struggling for traction. It's an optional upgrade on every single trim level, and it varies depending on which trim level, but rule of thumb generally about an extra $2,000. Now with 243 net horsepower, at times the power is lacking, mostly when you're merging onto a highway. You're really going to need that big span of the on-ramp to really get up to speed. But passing power is actually a little more adequate just because you've got that near instant torque with the electric motors, and then of course the real engine helps out later on. Driving this thing is rarely an inconvenience, always a joy, and because I want a hybrid car as my next sort of commuter car, it just makes sense to me. I'm sure there's going to be individuals out there that are very upset that the V6 didn't carry over and that the all-wheel drive isn't a mechanically linked system to the engine, but I can promise you right here, right now, in the driver's seat with about -20 weather, I can't fault this Sienna in any meaningful way. And that's why it may be one of the absolute best vehicles I have ever reviewed. And that's where I'll end it. Of course, this vehicle is a segment leader, no question about that. And I do apologize that the video quality has not been as good as you should expect out of me on this channel. Conditions have been very limiting, to say the least. So thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate your time. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all those other things. Really helps me out a lot. Cheers. See you again soon.